Hello everyone, nice to meet you here. I'm Yi, GIS engineer from SuperMap. I believe that most of you have registered for the 22nd SuperMap GIS contest. And as the submission deadline is approaching, we're going to give some instructions and recommendations on how to prepare and improve your work. Try your best in the following months and grab the chance to win a reward. No matter how much you have done, here we have some suggestions and recommendations to further prepare you for the contest, and these can be divided into these four parts. First, we are going to discuss the general requirements for your submission of the GIS contest, which means that we are going to introduce you about the emphasized skills for each group and the basic requirements for your work. Then in the second part, we are going to give you some recommendations on how to improve your work so that it can impress the judges and thereby to increase your chance to get the final reward. And with those recommendations, if you find that it's still a little abstract for you to know what you really should do, then you can also learn from some excellent work from previous year, and so that you can get some more inspiration on how to do your own work. Finally, in the fourth part, we're going to focus on software and resources that might help you during the contest. Which means in this part, we're going to lead you to get the software and learn some basic skills and knowledge about how to use the software. And also we would give you some links to open source data and more learning resources. So now let's get started. First, let's see the basic or general requirements for each of the group in SuperMap GIS contest. So, as you might have learned, this contest contains four groups: mapping, application analysis, development, and paper. For each of the group, we have different requirements, and you need to find the best choice for yourself based on your own GIS skill. And no matter which group you choose, all the submission deadline for this four group are November 15, 2024. So remember to complete your work on time and submit them. So now let's see the requirements for each of the group. For mapping group, you need to create spatial style thematic maps based on a variety of data to demonstrate your concern and interests. And if you are going to take part in mapping group, the basic skills you need to have includes data collection, data processing, and map design. So the skills we are looking for might sound easy, but actually it's not easy for you to earn a reward from mapping group, because in SuperMap GIS contest, every year we would receive a large amount of works from mapping group. So it's really competitive. And if you only collect some small scale of data and do some simple processing and design a simple map, really you can't get the reward because it's really hard to stand out from a large amount of competitors. So in mapping group, you really need to consider what is the best topic and how can you represent the topic, and use a series of maps to show your opinion or to show the work you have done. And also, the judges expected to see beautiful, vivid, and informative maps in mapping group. If you think, oh, it's really hard for you to design a really pretty map, then you can choose other groups, like application analysis group. If you choose this group, what you need to do is to discover, analysis, and solve problems in actual life and industry applications, and then use a paper or report to represent your work and your final result and conclusion. So for this group, you have to design a project by yourself, and also you need to collect a lot of data, processing them, and not only processing the data itself, but also you need to apply some special analysis methods to find or get some more information behind the data. And also you need to use maps and graphics to visualize the information you extracted from those sample data. So for application analysis group, judges would focus more on what you have done and how have you designed the whole analysis process of your work based on your topic, not only just how you represent them. If you are more interested in development instead of analysis, then you can choose development group. In this group, your basic task is to design and develop a GIS software or application system combined with current mainstream IT technology. And for this group, the skills you'll need to equip yourself with, including project design and coding skills. And here we don't have a limit or limitation on what programming language you are going to use. So you can choose a coding language based on your own skills or knowledge, like JavaScript, Python, C#, or etc. And also because in development group, your final result should be a complete system or an application. So you also need to design the UI for your application or system. So development group requires more sophisticated skills than those other groups. And the fourth group is paper group. That group is for those who are really interested in academic research. And what we expected the participants to do for paper group is to compose a paper based on academic research and technical application of SuperMap related products. So not only do you need to have a full understanding of GIS software and concepts and methodology, but also you need to have the ability to conduct a real serious academic research and also write a complete paper for your research. So the paper group might be the most challenging one in SuperMap GIS contest. And based on these introductions for each of the group, then you need to take a thoughtful consideration before you choose which group to participate in. And what you need to consider includes the knowledge, interests, and the skills of yourself. So if you don't have the knowledge for academic research or you are not interested in that, we won't recommend you to take part in paper group. And if you find coding is a very difficult part for you, then we would recommend you better to choose mapping group or application analysis group. And so the choice is all based on yourself. And also you can have a discussion with your team member and your instructors before you choose which group to take part in. And if you are going to work in teams in this contest, here we also have some basic requirements for the teamwork. So for each team, it can have 1 to 4 students or participants. And then for each of the team, they can have up to 2 instructors. And usually teamwork would get a better result than individual work because team members can cooperate with each other and combine their ideas and personal skills, and which could eventually produce very interesting results. And also, we have some general requirements for all of those submissions or your work. That is originality, integrity, and open source. Originality means there should be no plagiarism in your work. And integrity means you need to be responsible for the data and the final result or conclusion or report or paper of your work, and make sure there's no fake data in your work. And open source means if you have used some open source data or some open source tools in your work, it's okay. We don't have limitations on that. But then you would also need to make sure that your own work is compliant with the corresponding open source requirements. And besides of these three general requirements, you also need to make sure that your work be completely submitted to the judges so that we can really know what you have done. And here let's explain more on what is a complete submission. So everything in the submit list from the official website of SuperMap GIS contest is very important for the evaluation. So do not miss any one of them in your final zip package. And we would take three things in your submission as the ultimate representation of your devotion and achievement, which are the data, report and documentation, video and screenshot. So the data should include both the original data and the result data. And also remember to submit your data source and workspace that can be opened in SuperMap iDesktop X at the same time. And for the report and documentation part, you need to include the background information of your work in the report or documentation, and also show the whole workflow and key steps of your work to the judges. And finally, for the video and screenshot part, they are the materials you are going to use to directly introduce your topic and your work to the judges. And also, you need to present all your achievements and experience in this video and screenshot. So it's easy for the judges to find out what you have done. And all these three parts really would make up about 75% of the score of your final evaluation. So please make sure that you have them all well prepared according to the judges' expectations. And now, in the second part, we would give you some more recommendations on how to impress the judges and improve your work. As we just mentioned, submitting everything in the list is the very first step to get closer to the reward. The next thing is to convince the judges that you have done an amazing job or work on a valuable and unique project. As every one of you have equipped yourself with GIS technology and skills, here we have three important recommendations from the judges on how to design and present the project, rather than just technical details. So these three important recommendations are novel topic, great presentation, and detailed documentation. That are what the judges always looking for when they are searching from hundreds or thousands of works. So let's discuss them one by one. First is novel topic. That means no matter what group you choose, you always have to come up with a topic by yourself. And then if you choose a novel topic, the topic itself might help your work stand out from the others. So the judges might give a higher evaluation on your work. For instance, we can design a beautiful map to represent the distribution of varied coffee beans in a specific province. Or we can collect urban sound space data by ourselves, and then use AI and machine learning technology to analyze the data and do some predictions, and finally present the result with a grid map like we can see here. And so the second recommendation is to have a great presentation of your novel topic. And a great presentation means you need to finally visualize your result or emphasizes your conclusion with a sophisticated map that designed with beautiful color palette and proper cartography elements. Such great presentation would give the judges a nice first impression on your work, and thus they would be more interested in your work and want to know some more details. And then the third recommendation is about how to show the details and the hard work and the devotion of your work. That is to use detailed documentation to record what you have done and explain why you need to do this. So really, we would like to see those 4 parts of information from your report or paper. So the first is introduction and objectives. That means you need to provide some background information about your topic and explain why you want to focus on this specific topic. Then the second part in your documentation should be a list of data you have used. So in this part, you need to have a list of the data you have used and where are they from, or more specifically about the resolution or precision of each of the data if necessary. And thirdly, it's time to show your own work. That means you can have a graphic like in this picture to show your workflow or to explain what method you have used, why you're going to use them, and what's the result you have got during the process. And finally, in the fourth part, you need to have a paragraph or several pages to draw a conclusion on your work based on the topic you have chosen and the work you have done, what you have learned or extracted from those spatial data, and what conclusion you can make, and how those conclusions might give some guidance or information to the others in real life or industry. So based on these 3 recommendations about novel topic, great presentation, and detailed documentation, now let's see how excellent works from previous years have impressed the judges, and then we hope you can get some more inspiration on how you can improve your own work. So first, let's see some great work from mapping group. Usually in mapping group, we often find there are series maps for a specific area or country. Like here, we have a series of map for a region in Spain. And those participants have used different maps to show the basic information, including demographics, economy, and nature for the same region, so that from those maps, the judges can easily learn those basic information about the region. And if you want to be more specific about an area, instead of just show those basic information for that area, then you can choose a specific topic. Like here in this map, the participants had shown the flood evacuation route in a very vulnerable area. And because it has a specific topic, so although it only has one map, but it would give us some more detailed and specific information for this flood vulnerable area. Like here we can see that it has a background information on the risk for different regions in those areas based on flood vulnerability. And also, based on this background information, it has designed 2 evacuation routes for residents in this area, and also they have marked evacuation shelters in different regions. And to make it easier to find those shelters, they also put the images for some of the shelters on the map. So we can see that it's a really informative map for flood evacuation. And another trick in map design is to use more smart or interesting way to represent your result. Like for this map, its topic is to unveiling the residential potential for a specific region. And here we can see that the participants takes three kinds of factors to evaluate the residential potential, including social economy, health environment, and multi-hazard. And for different criteria or factors, they have designed grid palette to show different levels of, so the map both looks beautiful and easy to read. And if you find it's hard to be creative in how to present your result in your map, then you can choose to find a creative topic for your map. For instance, for a winner from previous year, they have choose a very special topic. That is to show the number of victims represented in films in a specific region to the map, so that it combines the information from film industry with spatial data and maps, which could be a great application of maps in less relevant fields. So learn from these excellent works, we have some hint for how to make your work stand out in mapping group. So first is if you choose to create an atlas for a specific area, then the key to make a series of maps is to choose coherent color palette. Like for this atlas we have shown in this page, you can find that they all focus on the same area, and for each different map, they choose a different theme color like pink, green, blue, orange, and light red. But besides this varied theme color, they all have the same base color, that is this green light color for each of the map, so that it's easy for us to tell, although they are different maps, but they are designed for the same area and for the same topic, and that would make the whole atlas more coherent. And also, when design maps in this atlas, not only can we use colors to show that all those maps belong to the same series, but also we can have some unified design style or some common elements to emphasize that those maps belong to the same series. Like in this page, we can see that the layout for each of these maps are not the same, but they all have the same element and the same background, so that to make them a comprehensive atlas. And also, for different topic, we can choose or design our own symbols for specific spatial features. Like here for this map, the authors are going to emphasize wildlife in a specific region, and so to highlight the distribution of different animals, they have used varied symbols for each of these animals, and these symbols are not built-in symbols in desktop GIS software, but are designed by the author themselves and then imported into SuperMap Desktop X to make those maps. And we can see with all these animal symbols, the map itself looks more vivid and pleasant, and also make it easy for us to read it, to get the information about where is a panda and where is a horse. And the third hint on how to make a great map is about how to design your thematic map. As we all know that there are a lot of kinds of semantic maps we can use, like raster unique map, map with graduated symbols, or value range map, and maps with statistical graphics. And these different semantic maps can be used in different situations. So it is your work to choose the best kinds of semantic maps to emphasize the data or phenomena you want to show to the judges. And after make those semantic maps, not only can we show them one by one, we can also make them to overlay with each other. So it makes it easier for readers to make a comparison, or we can organize them based on time series so that it's easy for us to find changes over the years. And layer overlay and time series are more advanced skills when making semantic maps. And you could try the skills when make your own work. And also, as we said before, for a series of maps, the information we want to emphasize may not only be represented in map itself, but we can also use charts or graphics to help us represent some information. Like here we can see that the authors have designed some specific charts to show the detailed information for different regions, and those elements can make your map more interesting. Next, let's see some accidents from application analysis group. So for analysis group, as we have mentioned before, the judges really want to know what method you have choose and why you choose them and how did you do it step by step. So for this group, in order to be the winner, you need to have a detailed methodology and key step workflow present in your documentation or report. And also because you are going to do some analysis work, so you have to record what you have done and the result for each of the steps into your documentation or report. Like here we can see that this work focused on the suitability analysis of grid claims, and so it has conducted some evaluation and suitability analysis, and for each of the steps it has represent its analysis or calculation result in the table and also put those tables into its report, so the judges know that they really do the work and they finally get their conclusion based on those evaluation criteria and calculation and comparison result. And also, as this is a GIS contest, we're not going to do simple mathematical calculation and analysis, but we also need to do some spatial analysis. So those winners have recorded what they have done in the software, that is SuperMap iDesktop X, with this screenshot, and they also included this screenshot into their report so that the judges know how they make this final map in SuperMap iDesktop X. And this group of winners are more interested in novel topic like COVID-19 distribution, but no matter what they are interested, they still have included their workflow and methodology in their documentation and make this clear and beautiful chart to show their whole analysis process. And they choose different ways to show the results during the processing. Like here we can see that we have statistic graphics maps and value range map and also density map. And these maps had clearly shown the sophisticated mapping skill and deep understanding of different kinds of semantic maps of those winners. So that's why they can win the reward in the end. And not only can they make beautiful 2D maps, but they have also made some 3D models for analysis in urban area. And here we can see that their final result is a combination of 2D analysis and 3D analysis. So that adds more score for this group. And for the third group of application analysis winners, they also provided a very detailed report to the judges. And we can see that in their report, not only do they have beautiful, well-designed maps, but they also have sophisticated statistical graphic charts to help us understand their understanding and analysis of the problem and the topic they are working on. And this is also a great example to you on how to make and organize your own report for application analysis. So here we have 3 hints for those of you who choose to take part in application analysis group. So the first hint is that if possible, you can try to combine 2D and 3D spatial analysis together, and that would make you find some more interesting result and get to a final conclusion. And the second hint is about what data you can use for your analysis. So we would encourage you to find as much as data you can get for your analysis. And there's no limits on the source of your data. So you can collect some data by yourself, and you can also find some open source data from the internet. And even if you have the skill or the tool for web scraping, then you can scrap some data from the website as well. And the third hint is about how to visualize your analysis result. You can visualize them in 2D map or 3D scene, and if you want to be more creative, there's also some ways to do so. Like here, if you want to represent a combination of 3 different phenomena into one map, then we can use additive color instead of simply use different colors. Here we can use red to represent phenomena 1, green for phenomena 2, and blue for phenomena 3, and their combination should be the additive color between these 3, so that would be yellow, purple, and light green. And so this combination result would look like these maps on the right. So here we can see that for most of the area, if we only see the original color like red and green, that means those areas only have one phenomena appear. And for this area, like we can see clear yellow here, that means those yellow area has a combination of both phenomena 1 and phenomena 2. So with this additive color, the information density of one map has been increased, but the map is still easy to read and it looks nice. And if your work has such similar need, you can use additive color in your own work as well, or you can find other more creative ways to represent your result. And then let's see some excellent work from development group. In development group, the whole workflow might be more complicated than application analysis group. And so it's also necessary to draw the comprehensive workflow for your work so that the judges can easily learn the whole logic of your system or your application. And as we are looking for a comprehensive application or system as a final result for development group, so really for such application or system, we should include more than one spatial analysis or application function. Like here, for this cartwheel system of a city, it has basic geospatial functions, including geocoding, route planning, and heat map analysis. And if we are going to make your own system or web application, remember to design multiple spatial application or analysis functions based on the topic you choose. And when judges evaluating works in development group, not only are they going to show the video and document of your system, but they really would like to run the system by themselves. So you have to give a detailed installation guidance to the judges and also show the detailed system design for the judges, so the judges know how to deploy your system on their own computer and then how to use it. And actually, a great development work don't have to cover a very large area like in city scale. If you have enough data, you can also focus on a very small area. Like for this system, they just focus on utility management for houses in the block. But we can say that the system has really detailed data for each of the house and road and also pipe network system. It's really easy to use. As we click on each of the facility, it can show the detailed information for each of them. And then we can edit it or send emails to its owner if we need. Here we have two hints for development group. Firstly, the majority of the work in development group is about coding. So in your submission package, you should have well-organized code represented to the judges, which has clear structure and neat coding and meaningful comments. So make it easy to read for the judges. And then your submission should be a complete system or application. If you want to earn more scores from the judges, then we would recommend you to design multi-end system. Like here, for this tourism system, it can work both on computer and mobile phones. And on different ends, the system works differently based on the user's role. For instance, for tour guide, they would usually use mobile phones to find the meeting points and set some meeting reminder. And for the system manager, they would usually use computer to manage the whole system and to make sure that there's nothing wrong within the system. And for the end user, that means the simple tourist, often they would use their phones to monitor their routes or get in touch with their tour guide. And to make such a comprehensive system needs a lot of work. And if you can do that all by yourself, then it's a great proof of your coding and system design skills to the judges. And finally, for the paper group, always keep in mind those judging criteria in your mind when you are doing your research. And from this criteria, you can see that what we emphasized for paper group as a topic importance and the writing quality and norms of your final submission. And in the fourth part, let's say how to get the software we are going to use for SuperMap GIS contest and some more resources for your learning and preparation. And so for the 22nd SuperMap GIS contest, the software you are going to use should be SuperMap Products 10i or higher. And here you can get the access to download the software from the link we provided in these slides. And it's free to download the software. And to use it, you can sign up for SuperMap Online to get a free trial license. And now let's see how to do so. So first, we can access to the software download page from the link. And then inside this page, we can download to see the series of SuperMap GIS products. You can use 10i series, which is more stable. And if you want to try some latest tools, we would recommend you to use SuperMap GIS 11i. And once we choose the series of the products, then under it, we can see different kinds of products. For instance, one of the most popular products is desktop GIS software, and that belongs to Terminal GIS for desktop products. And we can click on it, and under it we can find SuperMap iDesktop and click on it. Then we would recommend you to use SuperMap iDesktop X, and the type should be Windows Setup Package. Then you can click on the download button. And if you want to develop some WebGIS application or system, then you also need to have a GIS server. And so you have to scroll down to find Cloud GIS Server, click on it. And inside it, we can find the server product, that is SuperMap iServer, and click on it. Then we can see that there are a lot of packages for SuperMap iServer, and for Windows users, we would recommend you to simply use the first package and click on this download button. And after downloaded the software and install them, the next step is to get access to the software, and it's also free as long as we have signed up for SuperMap Online, and we can click the link in the slides as well. Here we can visit SuperMap Online from the link we provided in the slides. And once we get into this website, then we can click on the sign up button. And on the sign up page, we can create our username and password. And also we need to provide our own phone number for registration. And before we enter those phone number, remember to choose the correct region or country for your area. And then as we have entered all those information, we can click on register button. Once we have registered, we don't have to do anything else. We can directly start SuperMap iDesktop X or other SuperMap products and use this SuperMap Online account information to get the access to the software. For instance, here I have installed SuperMap iDesktop X on my laptop, and then I can simply start it. And here we can see that it would ask us to provide a license for the products. And if we want to use SuperMap Online account as the access, then from these three choices, we need to choose the second one, which is Configure Public Cloud License. And then click Next. Then in the next page, we need to provide the username or email address we have used for SuperMap Online account, and also enter the password for SuperMap Online account. And then we can check out Save the Password and Auto Login. And don't forget to check Agree and Accept the user agreement. And then click Next button. And here we can see that the software has successfully get the information for our online license. So we can click on OK. And once you can see this interface, that means you have successfully installed and accessed SuperMap iDesktop X and can use it to process and analyze your spatial data. So now let's learn more about SuperMap iDesktop X. First, you need to get familiar with its interface. So usually we would divide the SuperMap iDesktop interface into these several parts. So we can see that on the top left, there is a window that is called Workspace Manager. And that's where we can see which data sources we have connected to the current workspace. And also we can see 2D maps or 3D scenes we have made in this workspace and access them from Workspace Manager. And the maps and 3D scenes will be shown in the center of the software, which is called the map window or scene window. Now what we see is the 2D map window, and it shows the map for the world. And inside this map, actually we have several layers, and those layers can be managed from the layer manager on the bottom left of the software interface. And if we want to use some tools to process or analyze the data we have connected in the current workspace, then we can find those tools from the Tool tabs on the top of the software. And here we can see that actually it has several tabs, and each tab has its own name. And according to their name, we can know that which kinds of tool have been organized into this specific tab. And once we have used these tools from the tool tabs, then there should be a processing result or a reminder in the software. And that we can find from the bottom of the software that is called the output window. Once we used a tool from the tool tab, then the message from the output window will tell us whether the tool completes its task and how long it takes for the calculation or processing. And also, there are some quick buttons on the very top left of the interface. And use that, we can quickly save the work we have done or to zoom in or zoom out in the map window. From this interface, you might have realized that SuperMap iDesktop X has a sophisticated data organization logic. We have to understand such data organization logic before we actually use it for further processing and application. And so let's see it. So actually in SuperMap iDesktop X, all of our work will save inside a workspace. And that workspace can be saved as a local file in your computer, which should be in the format of SMW or SXW. And if you want to save it in database, it's okay. It can be saved in mainstream database like SQL Survey or Oracle Survey. But there's one thing we need to keep in mind, that workspace does not save any data inside it. It only saves what we have done in that software. That means the maps, layouts, scenes, or diagrams or models we have made inside SuperMap iDesktop X would be saved into a workspace. And also the resources we used to make such maps, layouts, or 3D scenes are saved into SuperMap iDesktop X as well, such as tables or symbols that includes mark symbols, line symbols, and fill symbols. And extra data sets we used to create 2D maps or 3D scenes are always saved in independent data sources. And those data sources are not saved in workspace. They only connected with workspace. And that's the difference. So we need to remember that workspace and data sources are independent, but they can connect it to each other. And only when data sources are connected to a workspace, then can we use datasets inside these connected data sources in the workspace to do processing, analysis, or map making. And the data sources can be saved as local files in our computer as well. and its formats should be UDB or UDBX. And if we want to directly save data sources into workspace, it's okay as well. Then after we connect data sources with workspace, then we can use data sets to create maps and scenes. And once we put those data sets into maps or scenes, those data sets are going to be visualized as 2D layers or 3D layers. And for each layers, we can set their styles. That means to use symbols to render the features in those data sets. And now let's see exactly how we can do it based on this data organization. Once we opened SuperMap iDesktop X, we have actually opened an empty workspace. And that workspace really would be called as untitled workspace. And under this workspace, we can see that there is a node that is called data sources. And this is where we can find all the data sources we have connected to this current workspace. And now under this node, there's nothing. That means we haven't connected any data sources into this workspace. So the first thing we need to do is to connect a data sources to this workspace. And here we have already provided you with an UDBX data source that is called China. And now we're going to connect it into into the current workspace. And there are multiple ways to do that. The first way is to find the tool from the Start tab. In Start tab, we can see a group of tools that is called Data Sources. And from this sub-tab, we can click on File, which means we're going to open a data source that is saved on our local computer as a file. And then click Open File Data Source and navigate to where we have the data source that is called china.udbx, and then click Open. Once we click Open, then we can find that there is a new node that is called China under the node called Data Sources. That is the first data source we have connected to the current workspace. And once we click on it, we can find that we already have all of these data sets inside this data source, and we can use it to make maps or process them or conduct some analysis or conduct some spatial analysis with them. Now let's see the other two ways to connect data sources to the current workspace. So the other way is to directly select data sources node in Workspace Manager, and then right-click and choose Open File Data Source. And from the pop-up window, we can also choose the data source we want to connect it in the current workspace. And the third way to connect the data source to current workspace is to directly select it in the Windows Resources window and then drag that UDBX data source directly into the interface of SuperMap iDesktop X and put it under data sources. Now you can see it's the same. And then we can see how to visualize the data inside those data sources. For example, we can choose the data set under the China data source. And then we can directly double-click on it. And it would open this data set in the center of the interface, which means it would directly open a new map window and put the data set inside the window as a layer. Here we can see that once we have a map window, then there is a layer inside the layer manager, and we can control its visibility. by click on the icon that looks like an eye. And also, if we want to add some new layers into the same map window, we can select on the dataset we want to add in and directly drag it into the current map window. And if the datasets are too big, there might be a warning to ask whether to create a spatial index for speeding up, and we can click on yes. And now we can see how it looks like. And another way to add new layers into current map window is to select the dataset we want to add into it, and then right click. So from all those choices, here we would choose add to current map. And so now we have added a region layer to this map, and we can also change the order of those layers. As we can see from Layer Manager, now we have 3 layers here, and we can select one of the layer and directly drag it to change the order of the layer. And also inside the map window, we can scroll on the mouse to zoom in or zoom out. Now we have learned how to add all those data sets into one map window as different layers. And also we can create new map windows to show the data sets we want to see. For instance, we can select the point data set for town and then double click on it. And here we can see that it will directly create a new map window. And there is also a warning for create spatial index for speeding up. So we also click yes. And now we can see the adding results. And here now we have 2 separate map windows. And if we want more map windows, then we can simply click on a random data set, and then it creates a new window to show it. If we want to add it to the current map window, we simply drag it to the current map window and change its order. And now we can close one of them. And once we close it, the software would ask if we want to save the current map. So for this one, we can click no, so nothing has saved. And then for this one, we can right click on the black area and then choose Save Map. Now that would save our current work on creating this simple map. And we can give it a name. For instance, we simply call it China and click OK. Then from the Workspace Manager on the top left, we can see that under the node that is called Maps, there is a new result that is called China. So now we can simply click the current China map window, and there is no warning ask if us we want to save it because it's already saved. Then we can double click on the map that is called China under the Maps node. It looks just the same as before we close it. And then we can also change the scale or the focused region of this map, and then right click again and also choose Save Map. Again, close the window, and once we reopen this China map, we can see that its scale and focused area has changed as we just saved it. And now we have learned the basic ways to connect data sets we already have into a workspace and visualize the data sets inside it and save our visualized result as a map. Then the next skills we are going to learn is about how to create a data source by ourselves and also import data sets or shape files into the data source we created and visualize them. So first, let's see how to create a data source by ourselves. So to do that, there are also different ways. So first, we can go up to find the Start tab, and under it, find Data Source subtab. And inside it, we can click on File, and under it, choose New File Data Source, which means we're going to create new file data source that is saved on our local computer. So click on it and find a location to save it and give it a name. So for this one, we can call it CQ and click Save. And once it's created, we can see that unlike the China data source we just connected to this workspace, the data source created by ourselves doesn't have any data sets inside it. So we need to either create a data set by ourselves, or we can import data sets in other formats into this data source. In the data we provided to you, there are some shapefile that is called CQ province and roads, and shapefile might be the most commonly used vector data file format. And if we want to use them in SuperMap iDesktop X, the best way is to import them into the data source as a dataset and then use it for processing and analysis. And to do that, we can go back to SuperMap iDesktop X, select the data source we want to import those data in. For here, we would select the data source that is called CQ and right-click. So here, if we want to create a data set by ourselves, we should choose New Data Set and then find a specific category of the data we are going to create. But as we already have the shapefile data, so here we can choose Import Dataset instead. Click on it, and then in the pop-up window, we can click on the Add File button that looks like a plus sign, and then find where we have those shapefiles. And now you can see that here, for one shapefile, there are two files that we can read in. One is in SHP format, and the other is in DBF format. If we want to get the complete spatial information and attribute information of the dataset, we would recommend you to import the data in SHP file. If we only want the attribute information from the dataset and are not interested in the spatial or geometric information of the datasets at all, then we can choose DBF data. Then we can choose DBF format, and the import result would only be a table. So that's different for these two kinds of data. So here we would like to import both the geometric information and attribute information of those features. So we would choose CQ province.shp file and roads.shp file both at the same time and click Open. And then from the interface, we can see that here are two datasets are going to be imported. And then click Import button. The data can be imported immediately. And now we can choose these two datasets at the same time. And then right-click, choose Add to New Map. Now it can directly add these two datasets into one map window at the same time. And we can check its layer order. And the layer order is okay, so we don't have to change it. And we can save this map as well. Just right-click in the map window and choose Save Map and give it a name. Simply click on OK. Then in Workspace Manager, we can find that under Maps node, there is a new map that is called CQ Province. And from this map, we can see that we have successfully imported the geographic information of those features we are interested in. And then if we want to check the attribute information of those data sets, we can select on one of them. Like here, we would choose CQ Province and right click. Here, we would choose Browse Attributes. Then we can see the attribute information for this data set. Because this province data set only has one feature, so its attribute table looks very simple. And if we click on roads data sets instead, and also right click, choose Browse Attributes, then we can see that there are more information for this. There are more information for this data set. And from this, we can see that we have successfully imported both the geographic information and attribute information of this two shapefile. And as we have created the CQ data source in SuperMap iDesktop X, then we can see how it looks like in Windows Resources Manager. So in Windows Resources Manager window, we can see that there is a file that is called cq.udpx. That is the data source we just created. And in Windows Resources Manager, we can only see the data source file, but we cannot see the data sets inside it. If we want to see the data sets inside these data sources, we have to connect them in the workspace in SuperMap iDesktop X. And now, as we have connected them in SuperMap iDesktop X workspace and created these two maps, so finally we want to save these two maps. So to save them, we have to save the current workspace. And to do so, we can simply click on the Save button on the very left top of SuperMap iDesktop X interface. And then we can choose how to save the workspace on the left. Here, we would save it as a file workspace. And then we need to choose where to save it. And we can change its name. For instance, we can change its name to default workspace to GIS contest. And here we can notice that its format should be SMWU, and then click OK. Now we can see that the name for the workspace in the Workspace Manager has changed to the name we just saved. And for this current workspace we have already saved, we can also find it in Windows Resources Manager. So here we can see that we have a new file that is called giscontest.smw. That is the workspace file we just saved. And now inside SuperMap iDesktop X, we can close this giscontest workspace. To do so, we can simply choose it in Workspace Manager and right-click, and then choose Close Workspace. Now we can see that GIS contest has been closed, and what we have now is an empty workspace that is called Untitled Workspace. And if we want to see the workspace we just saved before, we can go to the top, we can go to the Start tab in SuperMap iDesktop X, and then find Workspace subtab on the left, and then click on File, and then choose Open File Workspace. And here we can choose the workspace we just saved, that is called GIS Contest, and click Open. Once we open it, we can see that under the data source node, it is still connected to the two data sources that is called China and CQ independently. And under the maps node, we can see the two maps we just received. And we can double click to reopen them. And they look just the same as we saved them. Here we can close them again and close this workspace again. And now here we can see that as we save this workspace, it is an independent file with the two data sources, and their connection is based on the relative location between these three files. And if you want to submit your work as data sources and workspace in pairs, you need to remember to submit them just as how they related to each other. That is to say, if you have put these three files in the same folder, then you can directly submit this data folder to the judges. And once the judges open them, and they can open this workspace, and directly they can get relative location between these files. So the connection relationship between those files are correct, and they can see the maps you have saved. But here, let's try another way. When you submit your final work to us, if you don't put those data sources and the workspace together, for instance, you only provide a workspace to the judges, and what the judges receive is only a workspace. And if they open this workspace here, like I do, and they would find that, oh, because you didn't provide the data sources connected to this workspace, so the judges cannot get the data from those data sources. And so if they open the map you saved, they can see nothing. And I believe that's not what you want to represent to the judges. So when you submit your work, always remember to put your workspace and your data sources together. Only by this way can the judges know what you have done. So that's all you need to know about the data organization and basic skills for SuperMap iDesktop X. And when you're preparing your own work, here we have also provided you with some links. From them, you might could have downloaded some data for your research or interested area for further analysis. And because we don't have any limitations on the data you used for the contest, so you can download any other open source data from your national or local organizations, or you can also collect some local data by yourself. And if you have used the data from some open sources or from other organizations, please remember to have a proper citation and acknowledgement of the data source. And finally, for more skills in data processing and analysis with SuperMap GIS products, you can go to SuperMap GIS YouTube channel, subscribe us, and you can find SuperMap GIS contest training for previous years from our channel, or you can also search for GIS training camp in our channel. From here, you can get series video tutorial for how to use SuperMap products for 2D and 3D data processing and analysis. And remember to submit your work on time. And here we have listed the submission axes for different regions. That's all for my presentation. Thank you. And let us know if you have any questions.